Hello everyone. It's time to learn how to sleep better with the MVP secrets to protecting Microsoft 365 data. My name is Theresa Miller and I'm a field CTO with Cohesity, as well as a Microsoft MVP in the Office Servers and Services category for several years now. Not only that, I've been dealing with Exchange, SharePoint, files, and Teams type workloads over the entire course of my career. So this topic is near and dear to me because I've been helping enterprises make sure that they have the right strategy in place regardless of the challenges that they're faced with. For example, enterprises are dealing with cybersecurity issues that are affecting their enterprise data on a regular basis. It's very common these days. So having an understanding of what Microsoft can help you with natively is important. The other thing that has changed a lot in recent years is how governance and compliance are managed. Oftentimes, enterprises are responsible and required to pull back data from a point in time. And so these elements alone were important to spend some time with for the enterprises I work for, but also to help you. So with this session, we're going to dive into all of these topics and really help you get to the point where you can sleep better, knowing that you can recover that data that you have in Microsoft 365. To do that, we're going to jump into some of the common problems that Microsoft 365 cannot solve. These are the things that your enterprise is making decisions about by ways of how it manages its data. We'll take a look in just a minute. We're then going to talk about some of the Microsoft 365 native options for retaining data so that you know what you need to configure with what you get straight from your Microsoft 365 subscription. Then we're going to talk about protecting those Microsoft 365 workloads with Cohesity, and I'll even show you a demo of how you can protect and do recovery of Microsoft Teams. So let's take a closer look at some of those common problems that Microsoft 365 cannot solve just because they are how we've made decisions around how to handle our data. So the first problem stems from a real-world experience that I went through. Our service desk took a call for an executive that needed a critical email message that was a year old. They can't find it. After some discovery, it's quickly learned that this message was inadvertently deleted several months ago. And we were leveraging Exchange Online in this deployment. And through the configuration we had in place, we had the deleted item recovery, which was set to 30 days, and nothing more. No policies, no third-party backup to be able to retain that data. So this message was gone. And the lessons learned here were that without a backup or a policy in place, this message simply wasn't going to ever be recovered. So from there, we went on a journey to make sure that we had all of this in place. From a policy perspective, which is a native option in Exchange Online, as well as pursuing third-party backup options to meet any unanticipated need we may be faced with that we couldn't even predict. The other thing I want to talk about that's a common problem is who's responsible for that data. Let's talk about the SaaS customer first. You as the customer are responsible for your enterprise data. So if any of these things, user errors, insider threats, security issues, or even how your users leverage an application causes a problem for your enterprise data, it's up to you to have done something to make sure you can get it back. For example, it could be about those native options in M365 or more through a third party. Now, your SaaS provider has responsibility in this too, but it's more along the lines of infrastructure, making sure the infrastructure is online. If they've installed an application on the back end, so for example, Exchange Online, there's web servers, database servers for mailboxes, and more, they're going to make sure that that application is running for you as well. And they're also going to be in charge of any disasters. Again, by way of application or infrastructure though. So data protection is shared responsibility. You need to keep that in mind as you make decisions around how you will be able to recover that data. So that's why it's important to take a look at this next topic. Microsoft 365 native options for retaining data. Use them. You should use them. They're there. And they're included in your subscription. But I think as we dive into them, you'll find that they may not meet all of your needs. Let's take a closer look. Exchange Online, for example. You can set your deleted account or mailbox to be recoverable back 30 days. That's it. In our on-prem environments, we were used to being able to keep those as long as we needed. 30 days is it. Deleted item recovery can also be max set to 30 days. This is your deleted item retention in Outlook, that recoverable items folder that your users and your service desk likely rely on to get those one-off messages back. I know when I have managed on-prem environments, we'd often set this back to like 90 days, but you don't have that flexibility in Exchange Online. If you're looking at leveraging, or if you are leveraging litigation hold, for example, this is a compliance option that retains all of that mailbox data for as long as you set, and that can be indefinitely. And there's also retention policy, but that's more for e-discovery. But you'll find that a lot of enterprises leverage both of these to be able to get data back. But again, that's compliance and e-discovery. Maybe you're not convinced that this isn't the right way to approach it. Consider this. To get data back out of either of these processes, you need to set up a new case. And 10 steps later, you're to a point in the process where you can export your data to a PST file, and then it may or may not succeed. I know I've sat and waited for this to run for hours and had it fail. So what kind of SLA are you going to be meeting? I know a lot of the enterprises I've worked for want that data back right away, not 12 hours later, and much less for only one user. You might have multiple mailboxes that need to be recovered and have a 5-minute SLA. So that makes these native options a challenge. Now that being said, I would still encourage you to set them, but still look at other options in addition to this. Now let's take a look at OneDrive and SharePoint online retention options. I cover these together because they overlap a lot. So for example, deleted files and folders, 93 days. Site collection, recycle bin, this is specific to SharePoint, 30 days. OneDrive offers you a point-in-time recovery back 30 days for an individual user. This is a ransomware protection element, but ransomware sits around for a while before it does anything. So 30 days may not be enough. And version control. OneDrive and SharePoint both leverage version control. It's powerful. Make sure you have it. But if you have a mass problem that affects multiple OneDrive or SharePoint sites, and you need to recover a large amount of data, are any of these options going to help you get that data back on any short SLA, or is it going to take you days to figure out how to recover with this option alone? Then there's Microsoft Teams. Teams is a different kind of tool because it's built on and interconnected with all sorts of Microsoft 365 and Azure services. What's interesting about this is that there are a lot of different potential entry points then for protecting that data. By way of our conversation today, we're going to focus on Teams sites. Those are specifically built on SharePoint Online. And I just want to talk to you a little bit about how you may be able to natively protect those Teams sites. So the first important piece to this is here's Teams. And if you click on Files up toward the top and then go to the ellipsis on the right, you can see I have the option to open in SharePoint. Now, here's SharePoint. We're all likely familiar with SharePoint, or maybe you're learning SharePoint. And here's where you can set all of those additional versioning and some of the extra, pursue some of the extra recoverability items. So what that means is that for a Teams collaborative site, you get similar flexibility in that you can go back 93 days. You can leverage a site collection recycle bin. And you can leverage version control. And again, I would encourage you to do all of these things. But take a look at your business. Is this going to be enough when that tough situation comes? You have that major governance or compliance problem to pull data back for? Is this going to carry you through? So now let's talk a little bit about how to protect Microsoft 365 cloud data with Cohesity. Quickly, Cohesity, we were founded in 2013. We have a software-defined solution, so you can run it basically on any hardware or even in the cloud. We have now extended with an offering to provide an as-a-service solution, which will soon include Microsoft 365. We have some very powerful partners. We have some top-tier investors. And over on the right, we've won some awards from Gartner, Forbes, GigaOM, and NASDAQ. Cohesity was designed and developed for your cloud journey. We were born in the cloud era, cloud native. We offer you a single platform. So we talked about Microsoft 365 today. Exchange Online, SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams. One platform to manage all of those solutions and more. We extend into your on-prem workloads, your multi-cloud offerings, Azure. So you're saving your team time because they're learning one solution and protecting everything through Cohesity. From a Microsoft 365 data protection perspective, again, all of those workloads that we've been discussing today, you can protect them on-prem, you can protect them on our cloud offering, you can do long-term retention, you can meet those governance requirements because you can keep a separate copy of that Microsoft 365 data in a separate Cohesity deployment. We deduplicate and compress all of the data. So we're licensing based upon deduplicated and compressed storage. It's not per user. You get powerful global search and index. And you'll see during my Teams demo how fast things come back. And then quickly before I shift gears into the demo, just a couple points I'd like to call out here. So one is we are cloud native. We have a backup as a service offering that's going to include Microsoft 365 in the near future. It's not a bolt-on solution. It was developed in the cloud. And then I want to jump down to one platform with multiple point solutions for any of your workloads beyond Microsoft 365, protected from one single console. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and shift into my demo of Microsoft 365 as a whole. We can protect all the workloads we talked about today, and I'm going to demo Teams. Now I will state that I do record all of my demos. I never test the demo gods. So by way of this, you'll be hearing me talk live over the demo. Okay, so here we're taking a look at the Cohesity dashboard where you can see the overall health of everything you're protecting with Cohesity. From a protection, compliance, performance perspective, it's all here. Now we're going to go ahead to data protection and sources. Sources for Microsoft 365 must be registered in order to protect them. You can see here over in the middle and on the right, I have two Microsoft 365 tenants. They were registered by clicking on the plus sign in the upper right-hand corner, choosing Microsoft 365, and authenticating with my username for my tenant, as well as providing my app, credentials, and secret key. I'm going to go ahead and cancel and shift gears into protection. Here we can see I have Exchange Online, Teams, Groups, SharePoint Online, as well as OneDrive. So any workload you're leveraging that's critical to your Microsoft 365 deployment, you will find it here. These were all added by clicking the plus sign in the upper right-hand corner, choosing Microsoft 365, and then choosing the appropriate workload. In this case, we chose Teams. I chose my registered source. I'm picking my Teams site I want to protect. I'm naming my protection group. I'm choosing the SLA policy that I'd like to do my protection jobs on. In this case, we're going with a backup of every 4 hours and retaining for a week. You're also going to see here that I have the ability to configure some additional options, such as the end date for my job, as well as alerts and some additional SLAs. I'm going to go back because we already have a job in place that's been completing in very short periods of time. So now I'm going to go ahead and shift to recoveries. In order to initiate a recovery of a Teams site, I click the plus sign in the upper right-hand corner. I choose Microsoft 365 and I choose Teams. Recovery type here is Teams. I choose a wildcard to be able to find, and you can see how quick search dropped that in. I choose my Teams site. I choose recover options. I'm not going to continue on error. Everything's going to go back to its original location, and I'm going to go ahead and initiate that recovery. You can see here by looking at some of the jobs, the recoveries have completed in as little as 48 seconds to a minute. Of course, this will vary depending on how much data you have, but you can see things are quite expedited. All right, so now it's time to wrap things up. I challenge you to think differently. Here is a backup and recovery requirements checklist that I put together. So first, consider that single pane of glass for hybrid cloud management. Finding a solution that will protect all of your workloads for M365 and more will really simplify how you're dealing with things from an operational perspective. Make sure you're getting the recovery point objectives and recovery time objectives out of whatever you implement. This can be way of native options in addition to third party. It's likely both. Be prepared for recoverability for the unexpected. Accidental deletions, I shared my story with you. It wasn't fun. It was something that we had the opportunity to learn from, thankfully. But really, things happen sometimes that we can't plan for. Have an option that will allow Microsoft 365 data isolation for legal and compliance. And finally, how about exit planning? What if you do change your mind about being in the M365 cloud or Azure? Having a third-party solution can help with this. Thank you so much for attending my session today. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and enjoy Ignite.